Hey, you are now locked in the hard reset with Juice Kastoan. Let's go. All right, so this is the hard reset. This is Juice Kastoan. Um, I haven't done a podcast in a while. I'm just out there. Um, we still have the good, the bad, and the salty podcast with myself, Brown, and Gonzo, but I haven't been able to do that. And man, how long has it been? It's been about maybe 2 years, if not 2 years, a year and a half. But with that being said, this is something that I'm starting now, the hard reset. And here you'll dive into basically things that I'm going through. And I hope that what I'm able to do is allow people to see benefits and be able to use whatever experiences I've gone through and use it to make their lives better in a way. So this is basically what I'm planning to do with this podcast, the hard reset. And I guess to start off, like what is the hard reset? Like, what is this reset? So I've had to hit reset many times. And when I say reset, I mean starting over. I started over basically ever since I left my home in Texas. So first reset that I actually did was actually in Texas, I should say. And when I was living in Texas, I was living with an ex of mine, and we broke up, and I moved back into my mom's house. And, I had to start over from there anyway. But, there's a little pushing there, my mom's there. And then my first real reset was joining the Navy. I joined the Navy due to the fact that, when they start garnishing your checks at work and you don't have money like you did before, and your mom is asking you for money and you can't give her any help because you don't have any money to give her, you start thinking, okay, now what do I need to do so I can be able to always help her and not, you know, not be of help. She's done so much for me. I need to be able to be there for her if she needs me. And that's one thing I always want to do is be able to be there for the people that I love if they need me for anything. So at that point, I decided that I wanted to join the Navy. Now, joining the Navy, I'll dive into that in other episodes, but for the most part, I had a plan. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the Navy, I'm gonna do 8 years. And then after I do 8 years, I'm gonna try to do my school and finish my degree while I'm in and, flip that to get a good paying job and wherever I live is where I live, wherever I'm at is where I'm at. And, the things they say about say your plans to God if you want to make them laugh. Well, none of that went the way that I actually planned on having it done. I went in and did the best that I could, gave my full effort. I got tired of being, what's the word? Uh, there's a word there that's missing me. Underachiever. I got tired of being an underachiever. So I was that, from this point on, when I joined the Navy, I'm gonna try my best and do my best and try to, you know, make this work. And for the most part, I would like to say that, I did. And what I didn't realize at the time is in my mind, what I was doing was I was starting to realize the system within the Navy and how to use that system to propel myself to do well and rank up faster, you know. And I was able to do that. I reached the E5 in about a year and a half, 2 years max. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I just know that I made E5. Now, with that being said, the job that I had, the rate, it is definitely a rate that you can rank up pretty quickly and pretty easily until you hit E5. So I picked the right one because when I initially joined, it was either that or machine mate, and I knew I wanted to get something where I can make more money more faster. So I picked the, operations specialist and uh, ranked up pretty fast. And then after I ranked up pretty fast, you know, my mental health over time. from just working hard and barely getting any sleep to not being able to sleep at all. Maybe like a 5 minute, 10 minute nap. I couldn't actually lay down and relax enough to go to sleep. My anxiety was through the roof. I couldn't do it. So over time it just it didn't, it took over and I couldn't handle really I don't want to say I couldn't handle being in the military, but the fact that I couldn't sleep mentally, I just wasn't all there. So since I wasn't all there mentally, it was harder for me to really deal with the grind of being in the Navy. Eventually to the point to where, I had a suicide attempt, and that suicide attempt pretty much derailed whatever plans I had for the military at that point. Um, af- After that, I got sent to San Diego, where at that point I was going to be stationed there for the duration of my enlistment. And, you know, I got Mayboarded. They basically told me I wasn't fit to be in the military anymore. And at that point, once that happened, it was just a countdown to when I would be able to get out. So that happened, and my plans at that point, I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I needed to, I guess you could say, reset. So while I was in my new duty station and everything, I pretty much spent those 2 years just getting my mind right and trying to get mentally well. Pinpoint the causes what led me to getting to this point to where I wasn't mentally okay, and basically just figuring out myself again and learn about myself again because I feel like I pretty much lost myself in the Navy, just focusing on work and trying to do well. I pretty much forgot about myself. Now, it's not like I didn't have leisure time and I didn't travel, like I did that. But even then, it got to a point to where I didn't even go home for the 2 years I was gone. Like I was stationed in Japan. I did not leave. I stayed there for the full 2 years, didn't see my family or anything. And once I got out there and felt alone, I think it all just compounded to the point to where, you know, I just didn't feel that I was needed. So, I had a suicide attempt, and that's how it all happened. So once I, got to San Diego and did my reset, I got my mind right, tried to eat better, you know. Um, I heard coconut oil is good for the brain. I feel myself not being able to speak fast and be as sharp as I once was because of it. So, I would pour coconut oil on my food, eat that, hoping that would help my brain, recover. And just it was just a day-to-day thing. I just try to get better day by day and get better mentally and emotionally. And I feel like I did that over time. And then once it got to the point to where I was out of the Navy, which was about 2020, January 2020, I went back home to Texas. And when I went back home to Texas, basically the people that was there in Texas that I knew, they were all friendly, they were all nice, everyone treated me well. But for me, what I realized was that in Texas, my mental health was actually not getting better, it was getting worse. Paranoia was getting worse. Feeling down was feeling worse. Thinking about all my past mistakes was getting worse. And I felt like I forgave myself for how I was when I was younger and, my past self and, try to be better instead of being like brash and blunt and be more soft to talking to people and everything. But even then, I still felt like mentally I couldn't get past that blockade of like, oh, I was an asshole back then. Oh, why did I do this? Why did I do that? I should have been better. And I just realized that Texas, even though it was where I was born and raised, it was no longer my home. I no longer found peace in Texas. It wasn't my home anymore. And the one place I actually felt peace was California. So, that March I moved to California, did another reset. Moved to California, My homeboys, Gonzo and Brown, who y'all heard on the Good and Bad and Salty podcast. They said if I ever want to come back out to California, just holler at them and I can live with them and get myself situated. So that's what I did. I packed my stuff that I needed, went to California. And I started over in San Diego and, you know, got a job after about 6 months. That shit was hell. But nonetheless, got a job after 6 months and started working and getting my life set out there. So this whole time I'm sitting out there, now I'm spending time with Gonzo, I'm spending time with Brown, I'm spending time getting myself mentally right and getting to know this new space of being a civilian in San Diego. And I feel it was a good experience. I also feel that doing this, I was able to really find time to focus on myself and just try to build from there. So after I was out there, and whatnot, I was working and I was like, okay, so what am I gonna do now? So what I did, I knew that I needed to find some kind of inspiration. I couldn't just I did just I was applying for jobs, but other than applying for jobs, it was during COVID, right? It was 2020. So I was spending a lot of time at home and just chilling at the crib. Like that's all I was doing. That's what everybody was doing. And I thought I'd chill for a while, but then after about 2, 3 months of chilling, I got that itch. I couldn't just sit at home all day. I had to do something. So, I was still trying to find a job and everything, and then I finally found a job. And then that's when I started working in manufacturing. So I started working in manufacturing, and that was a good steady job. And what that job did was allow me to fund what I was trying to find as a new goal, a new thing to attain. So in the midst of me getting myself right mentally and actually just relaxing a little bit, finding peace, I basically was like, okay, so what's the new challenge? Let me try real estate. Let's try something productive. Let's see if I can, find a property and, see if I can do this thing and try to do that. So while I was working in manufacturing down there, I was basically I made enough to where I could afford a mortgage in California. Um, but it was enough to afford a mortgage like in Southern California. Not necessarily San Diego because that's expensive, but down in the central Brawley area, they had some nice prices for the property they had out there. So I basically went and bought a triplex, and that was my first venture into investments, and that triplex was basically I think it was like 315. Um, and basically I lived in that triplex for a year, and after I lived in it for a year, I was using a VA loan. So after using a VA loan, living in that for a year, the whole plan was to live there for a year and then start renting it out and eventually sell and hopefully make a profit. So the whole time I was doing these resets and starting over, I was still trying to find things that give me inspiration, something that keep me going every day. I didn't just want to just, lay there and just chill. Like I did love the idea of chilling, but there still had to be that one thing that I strive for and the one thing that I wanted to go for. So in this case, it was real estate, and that's when I bought the property. So, I got that property and I had that for a while. And in the meantime, with that property is also when I met my future wife. And, you know, she's real. Um, I knew pretty much after us speaking on the phone like 24 hours a day doing everything that she was who I wanted to be with and she was who I was going to marry. I just knew. Of course, we had to go on a date and everything and, see how that goes. But even then, the whole goal in that date was, I just wanted her to have fun, wanted her to have a good time. And, if we clicked, then we click. And if we don't, then, it's still cool. She'd be a cool friend. Um, but I knew even then at the first date that she was the one. So at that point, it was just about continuing to build that bond and build that connection. And so while this is happening, we're dating and everything. We're traveling, staying in California, and just just spend time together. Work wise, I was still manufacturing as a senior machine operator. I got promoted from a machine operator to a senior machine operator. And one of the things that my wife, she's very, very good at, very, very adamant about is, whatever you're worth, don't be afraid to fight for it. And she was definitely the one who helped me find that strength to be like, no, I should be promoted and I should get this pay bump. I deserve it. I know my stuff. I'm pretty good. I train others. I tell them how to do things and they do things efficiently from my teaching. I deserve to get this promotion. So, after writing a letter and things of that nature, well, email. We don't write letters anymore. Just it's not the 1920s. But after the email, they basically promoted me to senior machine operator. And while I was a senior machine operator, we were still dating, and then it got to the point to where we wanted to live together. So, I found another manufacturing job as the night shift supervisor over in Orange County. So moved out there to Orange County. We just started living together, and I started as a night shift supervisor. And the whole idea was basically just to keep improving, keep finding something to help us be in a better situation. So me doing that, it really helped us a lot, and I feel like it was pretty good. So I did that, and you know, it's you don't always get the seat at the table. So when you finally get the seat at the table and you see how things are operating, you start to see and realize certain things, and you kind of shocked at the fact that you're in these conversations and you're in these meetings. And then you realize not only that, but now you're in charge and people look up to you for a lot. They look up to you for training, they look up to you for support, whether it be emotional or just knowledge. Like you are there to help people succeed and do well at their job. And you're also there to hold people accountable when they're not just really not doing well at your job, because people cannot do well at your job and still be a positive influence. It's more those rotten apples that they are toxic at work and there's no accountability and it's always someone else's fault. They never really take ownership of what they're doing. So then you have to hold them accountable for when they don't do things correctly or they don't listen. And then it's even worse if they're lying to you about whatever they're doing and you got cameras to see what they're doing. I really don't understand why people lie when there's cameras in facilities. I don't get it. But nonetheless, the people that, do that, you you know, you have to hold them accountable and talk to them and figure out why they're doing these things and do your best to keep your team, you know, doing well and succeeding. And the only way you can really do that is by giving them the giving them the environment to where they can thrive and have the best knowledge and not giving any shortcuts with just the policies on how they do things and how they're supposed to do them. So I got a lot of experience from that. And then, there was an opportunity for us to start over with the higher pay. So once I got that, the whole process of me being in California after the Navy, by the way, is like from 2020 to 2023. So uh, I'm getting a lot of experience in manufacturing during that time. And then after that, there was an opportunity to have higher pay and government work for stuff I did in the Navy. So I was like, okay, well, we get paid more, so why not? Let's go for it. So, me and my wife and our pets, we moved to Maryland, road trip. That was a long drive. It was like 21 hours, I think, but we didn't do it all at one go. We actually broke it up into days. But even then, it's still a taxing drive just being up and being on the road for that long for like 6 to 8 hours at a time. It's really hard. We made the drive though. We made it safely. And long story short, did that job for about 6 months and I was up for a clearance. Now the thing is with clearances, depending on which clearance you are going for, it can take 6 months up to about 2 years. So I was told initially that it would be for a secret clearance. When I got there, they told me it was for a top secret. So at that point, I was already like, fuck. But I was already there. So then I was like, well, what do I do? So, I go through with it. I'm like, okay, well, hopefully it goes through well. So 5 months into the job, they tell me, well, the top secret clearance is going to take about a year, year and a half, and we don't have enough cleared work for you. So we're going to have to let you go. So after starting over and resetting and doing this government job, now I'm stuck at the point to where I gotta I gotta think quick and find a job. Because now at this point, it isn't like it's just me. I brought my wife here, brought the pets here. We're renting a house out here. We don't even own a house out here. I gotta find something quickly so we can, afford rent and living out here. So, I was like, well, chances of me finding another government job is not likely because it all depends on the clearance. If you gotta wait for the clearance, there's no way to tell how that's gonna go if you don't already have one. So at that point, that turned me off the government jobs. I was like, from that point on, I'm just gonna do private sector. I'm not really gonna do government work. I'm just gonna aim to do private sector jobs, private companies, and try to go in from there and do the best I can to move up from there. So, um, I was in the southern part of Maryland, so since I was in the southern part of Maryland, the opportunities weren't as plentiful as you would in a city. So everything down there was literally all government jobs because the base was down there. So I was like, well, I gotta find something, so let me try to find something closer to the city. So lo and behold, I found a retail job, and then that retail job, I get offered to be a lead, and I'm like, okay. And then I look at the pay. That pay hurt. It wasn't even $20. I'll tell you that. It wasn't even $20 an hour. And I basically had to take it to the chin and be like, well, it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do. So I took that job and, proceeded to work that retail job. It was a steady paycheck. It was full time. That's all that mattered. And me personally, when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, I need to find a job that's full time so I can, you know, look for a house somewhere closer to the city so we can have more opportunity. Because being down here, we're not going to be able to do much or make much money. So I need some job closer to the city to where I can potentially buy a home and be closer to more opportunities. And this job basically was more in the city in Maryland. It was more closer to DC, so I went for it. And I did that for a while. And then, me and my wife, we got our first house together, and it was closer to the city. So, we made that move. And after we made that move, I didn't mention, but that job was an hour away from where we were. So when we made that move, it was now like 15 minutes away. So it was perfect. So we did that. And, I worked that job. And in the process of that happening, my wife was also pregnant. So I was going to be a dad. So I was definitely putting pressure on myself. And one thing I did forget to mention, when I started working that government job, I decided to go back to school and finish my degree because I knew if I wanted to make more money and have better opportunities so I can take care of my wife and at that point our soon to be son, um, I needed to get that degree, get that finished and try to flip that into something better. So I was going to school while I was working a government job and I continued to go to school while I was working retail. And in the end, if we fast forward to now, I'm still at that retail job, but I got promoted to an assistant store manager. So now I'm no longer shift lead, I'm a store manager. And, the pay increased a little bit, not a whole lot, but it still increased. And, I graduated from my bachelor's. And now, I, at that point, I was like, okay, so what do I want to do? I got my bachelor's degree, but I want to make more money. I want to end up making six figures one day. So at that point, I knew I needed to go for my MBA. I already have years of work experience just from working in general, even before graduating college. So I was like, that's fine. I just need to find a good program. It has to be top 20, top 15, something. It's got to be a prestigious school. And so I did well in my bachelor's. I had like a 3.84 GPA. So I was like, well, let me just try all these top schools that make sense for my family, and let's see if I can make it work. I applied actually to, I want to say, was it three schools? It was three or four. I applied to Johns Hopkins University. I applied to NYU CERN, and I applied to Sam Houston State University, and that's the ones I remember. Um, Needless to say, I got accepted to Stern and Johns Hopkins. Um, to me, both were good. They're both highly touted schools, so I wasn't complaining. It was more so what fit best for my family, and honestly, being in Maryland, Johns Hopkins fit better. So, that's where I went. Um, I'm now currently going for my MBA at that school. Just finished my first semester. I did okay. Um, Passed my classes, that's all that matters. Did all that, so we're good on that point. But I definitely want to work towards getting my GPA to a 3 point something. But I don't care as long as it's in the threes. I know I can't get a 4.0, but I can at least get a three something. So I'm gonna work towards that. And I'm thinking about just using that MBA to try to get to some six-figure jobs, or at least an entry-level job that can lead me to being an exec one day. So that's like one of the things that I really want to work for. And that's why I'm going to Johns Hopkins, you know. Um, so this whole podcast is definitely going to be about what I've been through, and how I'm trying to level up, and I'll basically talk to you about my experiences and how I'm going through things, and my thought process behind how I'm going to handle them, and hopefully be able to help someone out there to give them inspiration. They can still do their thing too, even with setbacks. So this is the first episode for the hard reset, the first of many. I am Jeuse Kastoan. I'll see you on the next one.
This was Hard Reset. Hopefully you got some. Leave a comment, answer the polls. Go ahead and contact me at Juice Stone on Instagram, Twitter, everything to go and holler at your boy.
Mad thoughts just going through my head. Expectations have been met.